Chapter 17. Like the Wilcox Heist, 1899. Tomás feels an unusual comfort. He didn't expect a couch. It's also not dusty at all, unlike usual. Does someone clean it in between his visits? Or maybe the interval between them is getting shorter. It feels good to be back in Zara. Here, he can do something productive to ease his latent irritation. Trying to forget that idiot of a mage, he grabs his backpack and starts preparing to leave. The sensible choice would be to go back to Temilo's house and improve his skills, but he's fed up with that. He wants a normal day. He wants to sleep and wake up with that satisfying feeling of having rested more than the bed could offer. It's been a while since he last switched off his mind. Trat had invited him for a walk whenever he could. He'll take her up on that. Some time with her will be much more interesting. And, who knows, he might even learn something useful. Without difficulty, Tom casts a message spell to the Zararian. He tries to visualize perfectly the location of the chapel. Maybe she won't be able to pinpoint it, but he's sure that if she can and wants to find him, she will. Just as he starts heading toward the door, the spirit of Car greets him. "Hello, Tom, I hope you're well." "Hi, well, that's complicated, but I've already figured out my future's kind of screwed, so expected." He shrugs. "You're still very young to have that attitude. You should see the situation you're in from a more positive perspective. It's hard. But yeah, no point in just complaining. That's why today I'm going to try and enjoy myself a bit." "Very well. I hope your day is as good as you wish." Spirit of Car, have you ever heard of a deity called Shad? Yes. The response sounded a bit drier than usual. Tom never quite manages to understand the spirit's emotions after all. It's a voice devoid of features, speaking more like a machine than a person. "And what can you tell me about her?" The spirit of Car is always cooperative. The boy hopes it continues that way. "There's not much I know about this deity. It's not common for goddesses to leave their planes, but Shad was in Zara some time ago." Tom remembers the day he wasn't greeted by the spirit. The reason was another deity visiting Zara. That can't exactly be called a coincidence. Is that it? No more information? Anything at all? "There isn't much more I can say, but it's curious that Shad's blessing is upon you." "You can tell?" He looks at his own body, sees no trace of that bluish glow. Car's blessing had left his body with a golden shimmer. "Yes, there's an aura of hostile love emanating from your consciousness. Very different from Car's blessing, which is still present, but already weaker than before." "Hostile love? That's a curious way to put it." "Yes, it's hard for me to describe the sensation it gives. It's not something evil, but neither is it as pure as a deity's blessing should be." "Well, maybe not like Zara's, but who knows how things are in other planes." "True." It falls silent for a few seconds. "It seems your company has arrived." "How do you know?" "I didn't hear anything." He starts heading for the exit. "A true mage does not rely solely on the senses given by nature. You need to learn that." "I'll keep that in mind. See you next time." He exits through the door toward the stairs. Tom climbs the stairs, skipping a few steps. He doesn't doubt the spirit about Trat being there, but he hears nothing coming from outside. Upon entering the chapel, he immediately sees Trat standing in front of Car's statue, head bowed, two of her arms holding each other, and the other two with palms up, as if praying. When Tom closes the door, she gets startled, letting out a muffled scream. Her eyes widen as she sees the boy. "Tom, where did you come from?" She puts a hand on her chest, catching her breath from the fright. Tomás finds it funny and cute. The girl is dressed quite differently from usual, wearing colourful long clothes with a kind of uniform style. Her hair is braided and fuller than he remembers. He always thought she was pretty, but today she looks even more so. "I came from here." Tom points at the door. "From the wall." She looks confused. Trat doesn't see any door. "No, I was in the lower chamber. You get there through this door." He opens it, and as he does, Trat gets startled again, taking a few steps back. He closes the door. There's no reason to be scared. It's just a door. I don't know what door that is, but you disappeared and reappeared in an instant. I've never seen any spell like that. Tom steps aside. Maybe only he has access to that place. Well, I don't know what to say, but why don't we leave that aside and enjoy the day? He tries to smile, but isn't sure if the expressions of this body match what he feels. You talk like someone with no responsibilities. She approaches and takes his hand, leading him outside. The day is very bright and Jantir can be seen on the horizon. What do you mean? He feels insulted. I had to make up an excuse at work to come here. Tom had never thought about that. He's just a teenager. His goal is to study and procrastinate. He never thought of Trat as someone with a life, a job and all that. Until then, she was just an alien crush. Not that the boy didn't respect her or anything, it's just something outside his reality. For him, everyone he relates to who doesn't look like an adult is a slacker. If Trat works and already feels the weight of responsibilities, it means that the good old days of childhood are over, right? Most likely. However, nothing prevents that in this society there is child labour. But to suppose that the Zararian is a child in that body is downright ridiculous. Sorry if I caused you any inconvenience, I really didn't think about that. It's okay. I wanted to see you again. She stops walking. The two are already on the street heading into the city. What was that message you sent me? That strange place? She tries to remember exactly. She doesn't know yet, but it's his house on Earth. Well, what you saw, I hope you saw. That's my home, where I'm from. He says nervously. He never thought how strange it would be to tell someone that he's an alien. But it's so strange, so different from everything that exists in Zara. It really is. He laughs awkwardly. Maybe it's like that because it's not in Zara. Tom feels her urge to let go of his hand, but Trat doesn't. Is that what Jantir is like? She looks at the other planet on the horizon. No, I don't know what it's like there. Tomás quickly glances at the other celestial body, but soon turns his attention back to her. I come from far away, really far, and the worst part is, I have no idea how I get here. He feels like a fool, awkward as he runs his hand through his hair. Trat doesn't look at him for a long time. There's no way to know what's going through her mind. Still holding hands, staring into the void, she finally speaks. Then show me. She finally looks at him. I want to see everything you can show me. Tom is speechless. He expected disbelief from her. Well, that doesn't mean she believed it. Maybe it's her way of doubting or putting what he said to the test. Not knowing if it will work, the boy takes Trat's other hand and stands facing her. His heart races. He gets excited. They're close. Her scent makes him a little nervous. It's just too good. But he needs to focus. Trying to ignore the perfume, he begins to cast the message spell, linking them through the imaginary line where the energy flows. Tomás visualizes several images of his house, his family, the city, and even the planet. Everything he can think of. He tries to stick to reality. This isn't the time to share his tastes for movies and comics. With each vision created in his mind, he feels that she receives it. His skills have improved a lot, even with little preparation. The two stand holding hands in the middle of the street for a few minutes. Some people walk by and find it a bit strange, but nothing they haven't seen before. Tom tries to remember all the nature documentaries he's watched to give her a beautiful view of Earth. At the end of the spell, their hands separate, but the Zararian remains still with her eyes closed. Until finally she says, "What a beautiful place," as she smiles at him. So, Tom starts but doesn't know what to say. All this is true? She doesn't seem to doubt but needs that confirmation. Yes, my world is called Earth. There's no magic or deities. I tried to show you what I remembered best. No deities. She's surprised. No, none. And how do you explain some of the things you showed me? Carriages moving on their own, giant ships, and metal air transport? Not to mention that you're here now. Science, everything can be explained, studied, and, with the right knowledge, Achieved. Except for me being here in Zara, that I can't explain. But if you don't study how spells are performed, what do you study? She asks, confused. Magic is as common to her as Newton's laws are to us. We study nature, chemistry, and physics. That sounds so strange. That's what I thought when I got here for the first time. He laughs. Trat, I'm a little bothered by some things that happened to me. Can we take a carefree walk today? Her eyes sparkle. She takes his hand again. Of course, let's go. Several plans she had made over time evaporate with each passing minute. It's already difficult enough to consider pairing with someone from another deity, but it's not uncommon nowadays. Now someone from another planet? That's impossible. Impossible in so many ways it's not even worth counting. All that's left is to enjoy the moment and reconsider what to do later. Tom follows Trat without worries. By the direction, they must be heading to a part of the city he hasn't explored yet. The outskirts are bustling, people walking everywhere, fruit vendors displaying their colourful harvests, stalls with various types of flour and spices. The pleasant smell of Zara's strange spices makes the boy's mouth water. He feels like stopping and eating something, but Trat denies it with a smile. Unlike the central area of Bushakar, the streets of the outskirts are narrow, more decorated, with flowers, small statues, and ornate vases. The aesthetic is the same, but on a more intimate scale, made for people to walk and interact. These alleys spread naturally across the terrain, like roots. After some time walking and admiring the local culture, they reach a circular plaza. In its centre there's a small stage where children are performing a dance, with several people watching and having fun. Zarurian music is funny. It has a broken and fast rhythm. An extra pair of hands changes a lot what a musician can do. The melody of the tune moving the children is led by two artists, one of them with a kind of huge guitar, and the other with percussion that strongly resembles a bongo. Tom finds the scene interesting and feels like staying there watching, maybe even dancing with Trat, even though that's not really his thing. But his companion has other plans. They pass by the small stage and go down a staircase near the centre which leads to the city's underground. The descent is long, ending at a train station, very similar to one he had already seen on a previous visit. The platform is practically empty. Only a few people seem to be waiting for the train. Near the staircase, in a prominent space, there's a bluish globe projecting floating texts. They blink in various colours and change information at certain time intervals. Tom is not yet proficient in Zararian, but he identifies that what's magically displayed are the local itinerary details. While they wait, Trat questions Tom about mundane things from Earth, how cities work, transportation, and everything she can imagine that requires Grace to function. The boy has fun explaining, with his limited basic knowledge, how a combustion engine works or the use of electricity, concepts that are not so distant for the girl, but executed in an entirely different way. During the conversation, Trat has the impression of seeing a pink blur approaching her partner, a smear in her peripheral vision, so fast she can't decide if she really saw it or if it was just imagination. The train arrives at the platform punctually. Tom doesn't know how time is measured in Zara, but comparing the numbers, it's clear there was no delay. They both enter and find a seat near the door. The carriage is empty, very different from the last time he used the service. Tomás holds Trat's hand as the locomotive whistles, signalling that it's leaving. Slowly the train begins to move. There's a commotion coming from the stairs giving access to the station. Some people are running towards the train, possibly late. The boy smiles, finding it amusing. After all, the vehicle can't stop. Still thinking about that nonsense, he notices that one of the people running looks a lot like Lullaby. Curious, he focuses on her, and it really is the girl. Her small stature is unmistakable. She's dressed in long clothes, maybe something formal or ceremonial, he's not sure. However, they are not at all suitable for trying to catch a train. Accompanying the short girl are 6 other people, very tall, especially compared to Lullaby, and more robust than the other citizens. Trat also notices the people running towards the train. Her hand squeezes the boys tightly, turning cold with panic. Her cheerful, blushing smile gives way to a pallor unique to Zara's people. The train accelerates, leaving the station and Lullaby behind. A strange coincidence, but nothing more. After all, the first time he met the short girl was riding the train, so it's normal she would use the service again. He turns to Trat, thinking of making a comment about all the times he himself has been late, but his companion is shaken, and he has no idea why. Trat, are you okay? You suddenly turned pale. What's wrong? He asks, concerned. I just got scared by the commotion at the station, nothing else. She tries to brush off her fear, preferring not to mention anything. Why would some late people scare you? And one of them is even someone I know. Trat's mouth drops open in surprise. You know those people at the station? Not all of them, just the small one. Her name is Lullaby. A relative of hers teaches me magic. You were the one who took me to his house some time ago. Trat looks away, turning her face aside. This is bad. He could be in danger. She could be in danger too. What do you know about this Lullaby? Trat doesn't know who she is personally, but recognizes the clothes and the bodyguards. You're worrying me, you know. He scolds her, noticing that this doesn't get any words out of her. He continues. Not much. I know she studies enchantments in Bushkar, that she's talented and is related to a retired teacher, I guess. Oh, and her eyes are very yellow, very different from the other people I've seen. Trat is consumed by nervousness, so evident that even Tom notices. This Lullaby, she's different. You probably don't know yet, but there are people born with a light, a mark from some deity. I thought everyone was like that here, he responds, bothered by her tension. No. We're all graced with some deity's blessing, but people like her are called emissaries, a representation of the divine closer to the people. Really? I never imagined that. Tom doesn't see the point of a deity having an emissary representing them if they can already appear personally and also have spirits. It's too much delegation for his taste. I'm sure this Lullaby is an emissary of some deity. Those clothes and the escort, there's no doubt. Thinking about it, the 6 people who were with her at the station really did look like bodyguards. But the first time I met her, there was none of that. So it seems a bit strange what you're telling me. Tom remembers well the interaction he had with Lullaby on the train, and there was no vibe of emissary or anything like that. Maybe you just didn't notice. She's young, could have been recognized recently. She pauses briefly and squeezes the boy's hand tighter. Emissaries are very powerful. They can perform enchantments with extreme ease, and it's common for them to do whatever they please. I get your point, but I don't know. How common is an emissary? There are only 11 of them. There's Car's emissary, who presides over the Bushkar Parliament. I know there are 2 more living in the city. They say each deity has one, and as soon as one dies, another is born. But Dishkar has been alive for generations, and no one has ever seen Memeter's emissary. Dishkar? He had never heard that name. The president of the parliament? Right. He thought the city was ruled by Ka, like the goddess herself. The train passes through several parts of Bushkar, all new to Tom. The route continues both on the surface and underground. Much of the metropolis sprawls beneath the earth. Tomás had never imagined he would see such a massive underground port. Cutting through the city, there's a subterranean river. Its agitated flow supplies the residents with the water they consume. In an artificially created bay, one of the train's stops, there's an enormous port, with several docked vessels, cargo being handled by dock workers, and an enormous amount of structures used for logistics. Something the boy had never even imagined. The loud sounds of the work being carried out at the docks prevent the couple from having an easy conversation. Trat smiles, trying to forget the scare, while watching the boy marvel at everything. The strong smell of the port, A mixture of fresh water, fish, and sweat makes her remember her past, but not nostalgically. Quite the opposite. After the port, the train still stops at 2 more underground stations before returning to the surface. As soon as the sunlight illuminates both their faces, a muffled impact sound stands out amidst the harmony of the locomotive's gears. Something is on top of the car. Tomás only has time to look up and see the ceiling of the carriage becoming transparent. Lullaby emerges, crossing the translucent surface together with her escort. They land smoothly in the aisle of the car, and the opening above them closes. Stunned by the scene, the only thing he can think of is the great train robberies of the Old West. The Zararian bodyguards must be intimidating in any situation, except this one. The space and the way they have to position themselves in the car make the scene a bit comical. They're too big and burly for this corridor, not to mention that the contrast with the tiny lullaby makes everything even funnier. Still, Tom doesn't laugh at all when she slowly approaches them. The movement of the train prevents her from walking faster. The other 6 stand still, slightly hunched, doing nothing, just waiting for some command from the emissary. Trat could flee, and likely without repercussions. She's sure the target is Tom. As for the reason, after what she discovered today, it can't be anything else. She locks eyes with the little one, feeling in that vivid yellow gaze an enormous contempt, something not without justification. Is the purpose really to apprehend an interplanar invader? Lullaby stops a few seats away from Tom and, with her eyes fixed on Trat, begins to speak. "Hello, Tom. Weren't you supposed to go to Temulo's house to continue your studies?" The boy hears her speak. However, something doesn't feel right. It doesn't sound like the same person who chatted so casually with him on this very train. "I decided today was a good day for a walk," he replies tensely. This plan to relax didn't go very well. "Today? Of all days?" She looks at him. "And not with me?" "Well, I didn't think you wanted to." He tries to justify himself for something he's not even sure what it is. Lullaby pulls from one of her clothing's pockets a bluish bracelet, shining like polished metal, full of inscriptions in low relief. Very beautiful. She takes a few steps towards them and extends one of her arms to Tom, signaling that he should take the object. "A gift. Please, wear it." She stands with her hand extended, waiting for him to take the bracelet. Trat squeezes Tom's hand tightly, indicating he shouldn't do what she's commanding. Lullaby notices, even without seeing the other's movement, and shifts her attention to her. "If you want to get off this train the same way you got on, don't interfere." Jealousy? Tom feels Lullaby's authority. Some enchantment emanates along with her voice, creating in stark contrast with her small appearance. Trat controls herself not to tremble or show fear. She knows that no matter what she does, Lullaby won't leave without consequences. The boy might not have noticed, but she realized the jealousy burning in the other's yellow eyes. Tomás doesn't immediately take the bracelet, but he thinks it's best to do so to avoid any conflict. As he begins to lift his hand, Trat acts immediately, making several magical circles float in the middle of the carriage between them and Lullaby's group. From each of these enchantments, violently, come out green, thin, and horrifying arms. Their slender fingers, ending in sharp claws, stretch aggressively towards the group. Trat only intends to contain their advance. She doesn't mean to hurt them. Lullaby is the closest, having the least reaction time to the enchantment. Yet that's not a problem for the little one. With cat-like reflexes, she glances quickly at the seat beside her. The piece of furniture detaches from the carriage and intercepts the arm that rushes towards her, thus defending herself from the attack. The other arms are more successful in grabbing the 6 companions of the yellow-eyed Zararian. Their considerable size made it difficult to dodge the spell. The bodyguards are clearly skilled. However, as they protect a powerful mage, they primarily serve as a shield for Lullaby. Not staying to see the result of her spell, Trat grabs Tom's arm and they both run to the opposite side of the train. Lullaby doesn't take long to follow, passing by the seat, turned in the middle of the aisle, which still holds down the conjured arm with its weight. Two bodyguards quickly free themselves from the arms and begin to follow the emissary through the carriage. The locomotive leaves the centre of Bushakar and begins crossing the fields around the city. Sunlight streams into the carriages through the large windows, along with the vibrant glow of the crops surrounding the tracks, making the trip extremely pleasant. Well, for those not involved in a chase. Trat and Tom enter a new carriage. Inside, a few people are startled by the duo's sudden and abrupt arrival. The unsuspecting passengers realise what's happening when the emissary enters right after them, with her eyes ablaze. Some even manage to leave the carriage before anything happens. Lullaby is furious and wants to end this pointless chase soon. With a few gestures of her hands, the four seats closest to the duo start to contort, taking the shape of humanoid creatures. The metal structure serves as a rustic skeleton, and the wood provides support for the legs and arms, like muscles. One Zarurian was sitting on one of the transforming seats. Without reacting, he falls to the floor as the minion forms in front of him. His heart racing, he watches the enchantment with a mixture of fear and fascination. Unable to breathe, he backs up as much as possible against the carriage wall, trying to protect himself. Two other people run to the back of Lullaby, thus staying out of the crossfire. Tom doesn't want to depend on his friend to escape this situation, but his knowledge is useless here. If only there were some plant nearby, he could use the magic Temulo taught him. Clearly, Lullaby should be his teacher. The four creatures of metal and wood advance towards the boy. They want to immobilize him. Trat, desperate, pulls him back, causing both of them to fall to the carriage floor, embracing. With the movement, they manage to escape the advance of Lullaby's controlled minions. Tom tightens his protector, so only he feels the impact of the fall. Even under tension, he manages to notice how soft and fragrant her body is. Trat doesn't waste time with useless thoughts, and right there on the floor she conjures another magical circle. The boy watches, amazed, as a kind of furry orange dog snake with a thick body emerges from within the conjuration. It's like witnessing a superhero battle. The animal, with an extremely long snout and full of teeth, quickly slithers down the aisle, wrapping its thick body in a zigzag S shape around the four wooden and metal creatures, immobilizing them while trying to crush them. Lullaby lets out a scream of indignation that chills both their spines. She's holding back. She doesn't want to hurt the other, much less Tom. But the meddler is getting in her way more than an administrative employee ever could. Trat has certainly been through some combat before and knows how to handle herself. The sunlight coming through the carriage windows begins to be blocked by shadows. Four of Lullaby's 6 bodyguards are outside the carriage, surrounding the duo. One pair of arms is being used to hold firmly onto the moving train. It's not just strength. Some enchantment connects them to the carriage, making the maneuver feasible. Tom feels the magical energy circulating strangely around them both, as if ropes were beginning to form to pin them down. Everything happens very quickly. The sensation grows stronger and, in response, he propels himself forward while pushing Trat to the side, into an empty space left by one of the seats that transformed. Heavy black chains cross the carriage, slamming onto the floor where Tom and Trat had just been, with a deafening crash of metal. The force of the enchantment is so strong that the nearby seats tremble. If the boy's movement had been just a second later, he would have been trapped by the chains. Tom gets to his feet with an agility that must belong to the golem, because he was never good at these things. Breathing heavily, he faces Lullaby, who watches him, irritated. Strangely, he feels that her irritation isn't with him, but that doesn't make the situation any better. Trat observes the situation still lying on the ground, thinking about what can be done. Her snake has already vanished after incapacitating the creatures Lullaby created, so she couldn't use it again for a while. Once again, Tomás feels the flow of energy forming around him, but this time he can't react. From the four corners of the train, precisely where Lullaby's bodyguards are, emerge black spikes that pierce through Tom's arms and legs, pinning him in place with excruciating pain. The sound of the metal piercing through doesn't manage to muffle Tomás's scream of pain. He had never felt anything like this. The piercing burns in an abnormal way, and it's only by a thread that he doesn't faint on the spot. In the midst of all the pain, a thought crosses the boy's mind. Why hasn't the spirit of Car interfered? For much less, the entity had taken a stand against Temulo, but now, when he is in real danger, it does nothing. Tom doesn't know it, but there is a reason. Trat, upon seeing him impaled, feels her heart stop. Her voice doesn't come out. She's completely paralyzed. Lullaby goes through the same. The air leaves her lungs. She tries to scream, but nothing comes out of her small oval mouth. The emissary's shock is only broken when she hears Tom's groans of agony. "You idiots!" she exclaims, almost in panic. "I said not to hurt him." Lullaby rushes forward, and with a movement of her arm, the carriage around Tom is destroyed. The air in the space surrounding the boy expands so quickly and forcefully that all the structures of the train are violently hurled outward. The explosion of the carriage throws far away the four bodyguards who had cast the spell, as well as Trat, who tries to hold on to one of the seats, but the force of the magic is so great that she's also shot like a bullet out of the train. Spinning uncontrollably in the air, the native manages to use her wings to stabilize herself, though she still ends up rolling on the ground and suffering injuries. The bodyguards, who were the targets of the spell, weren't so lucky. The impact of the enchantment caused 3 of them to lose consciousness immediately. Only one manages to avoid the fall with a maneuver similar to Trat's, though even so his condition is concerning. "Tom, you idiot! Why didn't you go see Temulo as soon as you got here?" Lullaby cries as she speaks. With a movement of the emissary's hands, the 4 black spears pinning him dissolve, leaving large holes in his body. A viscous black liquid seeps from the orifices, which are made of a shiny black mass. The wounded body begins to try to pull itself together to fill the gaps left by the injury. Lullaby is startled when she sees Tom's bizarre insides. She was prepared to use her grace to heal him, but she doesn't know if it will work. Her knowledge of graces is broad, but she has never seen or heard of anything like this. Suppressing her despair, she decides to try anyway. With her trembling mouth, she mutters a few words, and then a pale pink light envelops Tom. Flower petals begin to fall over the boy. The wound doesn't close, however, the pain he feels begins to diminish. "Why?" he asks now that he's no longer dazed. Lullaby looks at him, tears streaming down her face. "First, let me treat you, then we'll talk." 4 golden arms made of light emerge from Lullaby's small, slender arms. With them, the girl picks up Tom and carries him as a mother would carry a child. Tom passes out.